He thought he was just helping a stranger in the rain. But carrying her changed both their lives forever. Watch how a single dad's kindness melted the heart of a secret CEO. Like and subscribe for more heartwarming stories. The rain was coming down in sheets when Liam spotted her. A woman in a soaked designer dress stood on the side of the road, one shoe missing, holding onto a lamppost. She winced as she tried to take a step, then froze, her ankle clearly injured. "Hey, don't move," Liam said, pulling over. He was a mechanic, a widowed single dad who spent most evenings picking up his daughter from school. Tonight, he'd taken a different route home. The woman looked up, her eyes sharp, yet vulnerable. "I'm fine," she tried to insist, though her ankle was swelling fast. "You're not fine," Liam replied firmly. Without waiting for permission, he crouched and lifted her into his arms. She was surprisingly light, but she tensed in shock. "You don't even know who I am," she murmured as the rain dripped off his jacket. "Doesn't matter," Liam said. "You needed help. That's enough for me." He carried her to his truck, wrapped her in his daughter's blanket from the back seat, and drove her to the nearest urgent care. On the way they talked. He learned her name was Claire, but she didn't mention she was the CEO of one of the city's largest tech companies. At the clinic, he waited until she was treated, even buying her a coffee afterward. She was used. Two people chasing her for her wealth or influence. No one ever stayed, just because they cared. A week later, she showed up at his garage with a shy smile and a repaired ankle. "You carried me once," she said softly. "Now, let me return the favor, maybe over dinner." Liam grinned, not realizing that this simple act of kindness had made the city's most powerful woman fall for the mechanic who didn't care about titles, only hearts. The rain was relentless, turning the streets into shimmering rivers of light. Liam Bennett gripped the steering wheel, squinting through the downpour as his wipers fought a losing battle. He was late picking up his daughter from his sister's house, and all he could think about was getting home, drying off, and putting something hot on the stove. That's when he saw her, a woman in a soaked cream dress, her dark hair plastered to her face, standing at the edge of the road. She was barefoot on one foot, the other in a single high heel, and she was leaning heavily against a lamppost. When she tried to move, her body jerked in pain. Without hesitation, Liam pulled over. He jogged to her side, water soaking through his work boots instantly. "You okay, ma'am?" Her breath came in quick bursts. "I think I twisted my ankle." One glance told Liam it was worse than twisted. The ankle was already swelling under the strap of her shoe. He bent down, offering his arm, but she shook her head. "I can walk." "No, you can't," he said gently but firmly, and before she could argue, he scooped her into his arms. She gasped, startled, clutching at his shoulders. "You don't even know me," she said, her voice low but tinged with disbelief. "Don't need to," Liam replied, rain dripping down his jaw. "You needed help. That's enough." In the warm cab of his truck, he wrapped her in his daughter Emma's pink blanket. The woman stared at it for a moment, then smiled faintly. "You have a child?" "Yeah, Emma, 7. She thinks she's the boss of me." That made her chuckle, a warm, genuine sound that somehow cut through the storm outside. She told him her name was Claire. Just Claire. No last name, no mention of the fact that she was Claire Donovan, CEO of a billion-dollar tech empire, and one of the city's most influential women. At urgent care. Liam stayed with her through the checkup, even bringing her a coffee from the vending machine. "It's not great," he admitted, handing it over, "but it's hot." She watched him as she sipped, her eyes lingering a little too long. No one in her world waited around without wanting something, but this man, oil-stained hands, worn jacket, and kind eyes seemed different. When the nurse brought her crutches, Liam helped her out to the curb. "I can call a cab," she said, but he shook his head. "I'll get you home," and he did. No awkward questions, no hints that he knew or cared about her status. Just a polite "take care of yourself," before he drove off into the rain. For the next week, Claire couldn't stop thinking about him. She told herself it was gratitude, but gratitude didn't explain the way her pulse sped up every time she pictured him carrying her through the rain. 7 days later, she walked into his garage, ankle-heeled, wearing jeans instead of a designer dress. "Claire," he said, looking up from under the hood of a sedan. "How's the ankle?" "Better," she said, smiling. "Good enough to walk in here and ask if you'd like to have dinner. My treat." He blinked in surprise. "Dinner? With me? With the man who didn't care who I was, and just cared that I was hurting?" And for the first time in years, Claire Donovan wasn't the CEO. She was just a woman, falling for the mechanic who carried her without hesitation and without knowing she had a skyscraper with her name on it. The city felt heavier when it rained. Liam Bennett's old Ford truck groaned with every puddle it hit, but he pushed on, eager to get to his sister's place to pick up Emma. He was bone-tired double shift at the garage, grease still under his nails, but nothing mattered more than seeing his little girl. That's when his headlights caught the figure ahead. A woman, drenched to the bone, gripping a lamppost as if the wind might tear her away. Her dress, cream-colored and expensive-looking, was plastered to her, and her makeup had all but washed away. She was barefoot on one foot, the other in a black stiletto. Liam slammed the truck into park. "You okay?" he called, stepping into the rain. "I'm fine," she said automatically, but her voice trembled. "You're not fine," he replied, already moving closer. The moment she tried to step, she winced sharply. Before she could argue, he crouched and lifted her in his arms. "Hey, what are you?" she started. "Saving you from making that ankle worse." His tone was calm, unshakable. She stared at him, as if unaccustomed to anyone simply taking care of her. Inside the warm cab of his truck, she let out a slow breath. He handed her a pink blanket frayed at the edges, but smelling faintly of laundry soap. "Emma's," he said when she looked at it. "My daughter? She'd scold me if I let anyone freeze." Claire smiled despite herself. "You're a good dad, trying to be." She introduced herself simply as Claire, leaving out the Donovan surname that graced tech magazines and Forbes covers. He didn't ask what she did, and somehow, that was refreshing. At Urgent Care, he stayed. Bought her the worst cup of coffee imaginable. Joked about how much her ankle brace looked like a stormtrooper boot, and when she was discharged, he drove her home without a single hint of expectation. "Take care of yourself," he said, offering a small smile before driving off into the wet night. Claire couldn't stop thinking about him. Not the way most people thought about her because of what she could give them, but because of the way he looked at her without recognition, as if she were just another person worth helping. A week later, she showed up at his garage. He was bent under the hood of a sedan, sleeves rolled up, grease smudged across his forearm. "Claire," he said, startled. "Ankle, okay." "Better," she said. "Good enough to walk in here and ask if you'd like to have dinner." "My treat." He hesitated. "Dinner with me. Dinner with the man who carried me through a storm without asking for anything." They went to a small Italian place, the kind with checkered tablecloths and soft lighting. Over pasta and red wine, they talked. She learned about Emma, about his late wife, about how he'd given up a promotion to stay closer to home for his daughter's sake. He learned almost nothing about her. Claire dodged those questions expertly. But she was warm and funny, and her laughter came easily when she was with him. When he walked her to her car, she felt a strange pull knot, the kind born from charm or wealth, but from genuine safety. It couldn't stay hidden forever. 2 weeks later, Liam's sister shoved a magazine at him. On the cover was Claire, in a tailored suit, shaking hands with the mayor. "Isn't this the woman you've been seeing?" she asked. When Claire came by the garage later, he confronted her not angrily, but with quiet hurt. "Why didn't you tell me who you were?" Her eyes softened. "Because I wanted you to see me as me, not the CEO, not the bank account, not the headline." "Claire," he said carefully, "I don't care about any of that. but I do care about honesty." She stepped closer, voice low. "Then let me be honest now. I haven't stopped thinking about you since that night in the rain." It wasn't instant. Trust had to be rebuilt. But she kept showing up at Emma's soccer games, at the garage with lunch, in his kitchen making pancakes on Saturday mornings. And one night, when the rain fell again and they stood at his doorway, she whispered, "That night, you carried me because I couldn't walk. But truth is, Liam, you've been carrying me ever since."